One of the most revolutionary ideas SpaceX has introduced to the space industry is catching rockets mid-air. This is one of the hardest achievements in the history of spaceflight, and SpaceX has managed to do it in less than a decade of Starship development. However, this method is still in the testing phase, and there are problems that need to be solved before it becomes fully operational. It could take dozens of more tests to refine the process completely. But what if there is a better way to recover both the booster and the upper stage? SpaceX has now come up with a simpler and more reliable method for reusing Starship and Super Heavy. In today's video, we'll explore this new approach. Before we dive deeper, make sure to subscribe to our channel for future updates on Starship and SpaceX's groundbreaking achievements. Mechazilla works by using giant mechanical arms attached to the launch tower. These arms are designed to precisely catch the returning booster as it descends from space. The advantage of this approach is that it eliminates the need for traditional landing legs, making the booster lighter and allowing for more fuel or payload capacity. Instead of landing on a drone ship or a landing pad, the booster comes down vertically and is guided into the arms of Mechazilla, which then locks it in place. Once secured, the booster can be quickly reattached to another Starship upper stage and prepared for the next launch. While this system has many benefits, it also presents several challenges. First, the booster is traveling at extremely high speeds when it re-enters the atmosphere. It must precisely align itself with Mechazilla's arms at just the right moment, or the catch will fail. This requires incredibly precise control and coordination between the rocket's navigation system and the tower's catching mechanism. Even the smallest miscalculation in timing, wind conditions, or alignment could cause the booster to miss the arms and crash. Another major challenge is the immense force involved in the landing process. When the booster is descending, it still carries a lot of kinetic energy, which must be absorbed when it is caught. The arms must be strong enough to withstand these forces without breaking, while also being flexible enough to provide a soft catch that does not damage the booster itself. If the forces are too great, the booster or the catching mechanism could suffer structural damage. Additionally, winds or turbulence in the atmosphere can make it difficult for the booster to align with the catching arms. Unlike landing legs, which allow for some flexibility in landing location, Mechazilla requires extreme precision in a fixed position. If the weather conditions are unfavorable, the rocket may not be able to land at all. Another limitation of relying solely on Mechazilla is that it is only available at a fixed launch site. This means that SpaceX can only land boosters in locations where a Mechazilla tower is installed. While this is fine for reusable launches from a single location, it becomes a problem for missions that require recovery in different locations, such as those launching from floating platforms or other spaceports. Because of these challenges, SpaceX has been looking into an alternative recovery method that does not rely entirely on Mechazilla. Instead of catching the booster mid-air, they are now considering a more traditional approach, landing Starship and Super Heavy on large floating drone ships at sea. This method has already been used successfully with Falcon 9 rockets, which regularly land on autonomous drone ships after completing their missions. By adapting this method for Starship and Super Heavy, SpaceX can eliminate some of the risks associated with Mechazilla. Instead of requiring extreme precision to be caught mid-air, the booster would land on a stable surface, allowing for a safer and more controlled descent. The floating drone ships could also be positioned anywhere in the ocean, giving SpaceX more flexibility in recovery locations. Landing Starship and Super Heavy on a drone ship is far more difficult than landing Falcon 9, primarily due to differences in size, weight, engine power, and landing requirements. Falcon 9 and Starship are two completely different classes of rockets, and while the drone ship landing method has worked successfully for Falcon 9, scaling it up for Starship will require significant modifications. First, Falcon 9 is 70 meters tall and has a diameter of 3.7 meters, making it a relatively slim rocket. It weighs around 1.2 million pounds when fully fueled. On the other hand, Starship, when fully stacked with its super heavy booster, stands at 120 meters with a diameter of 9 meters. The combined weight of the Starship system is nearly 11 million pounds when fully fueled, almost 10 times heavier than Falcon 9. Because of this massive difference in size and weight, the forces involved in landing are much higher for Starship. When Falcon 9 lands, it performs a controlled descent using its Merlin engines, which each produce 190,000 pounds of thrust. A Falcon 9 first stage has 9 Merlin engines, bringing the total thrust at full power to 1.7 million pounds of thrust. This is manageable for the drone ships currently in use, as they have been designed to absorb this level of force. Starship's Super Heavy booster, however, is powered by 33 Raptor engines, each producing 520,000 pounds of thrust. This means that at full power, the Super Heavy booster generates nearly 17 million pounds of thrust, more than 10 times the thrust of a Falcon 9 first stage. The sheer amount of energy involved means that the landing platform must be reinforced to withstand significantly higher forces than what Falcon 9 requires. If a standard Falcon 9 drone ship were used for Starship, the landing would likely destroy the platform due to the excessive thrust and weight. Another major challenge is the heat produced by the engines. The Merlin engines on Falcon 9 use kerosene and liquid oxygen as propellants, which burn at a relatively lower temperature compared to Starship's methane and liquid oxygen-powered Raptor engines. The Raptor engines burn at much higher efficiency and temperatures, meaning the drone ship's surface must be protected from extreme heat. The Falcon 9 drone ships currently use heat-resistant materials and water deluge systems to reduce surface damage. But for Starship, a much more advanced cooling system would be required to prevent the ship from melting or catching fire due to the high-intensity exhaust. Additionally, the landing process for Starship is more complex. Falcon 9 typically performs a single-engine landing burn, slowing down gradually before touching down on the drone ship. Its legs extend outward to stabilize the rocket upon landing. Since the Falcon 9 booster is relatively small, the risk of tipping over is minimal, and the Octograbber robot can quickly move in to secure the booster. In contrast, Super Heavy must use multiple Raptor engines for landing, and its greater height and weight mean that it has a higher center of gravity, making it far more difficult to stabilize on a floating platform. A larger, stronger securing system would need to be designed to hold the booster in place after landing. A modified version of the Octograbber robot, capable of handling the enormous weight and size of Super Heavy, would be necessary. The size of the landing platform is another major issue. Falcon 9's drone ships, such as Of Course I Still Love You and A Short Fall of Gravitas, measure about 91 meters long and 52 meters wide. This is large enough for Falcon 9's 3.7-meter wide first stage, but Starship's 9-meter wide booster would barely fit. To safely accommodate Super Heavy, the drone ships would need to be much larger and more stable, possibly requiring entirely new designs that are twice as large or more. These platforms would also need stronger positioning systems to ensure stability in the ocean, as even slight movements could make landing impossible. Beyond the booster, Starship itself presents additional difficulties. The second stage of Falcon 9 is not reusable and burns up in the atmosphere after completing its mission. Starship, however, is fully reusable, meaning it must survive re-entry and land safely after completing a mission. This adds another layer of complexity, as Starship must deal with intense aerodynamic forces and heating during descent. Unlike Falcon 9, which follows a straightforward vertical landing trajectory, Starship performs a belly flop maneuver before flipping upright for landing. This maneuver requires precise timing and control, which becomes even more difficult when attempting to land on a moving drone ship in the ocean. The sheer difficulty of these challenges explains why SpaceX is still in the process of refining its recovery methods. While drone ship landings have been a proven success for Falcon 9, making them work for Starship and Super Heavy will require major upgrades to both the landing platforms and the rockets themselves. SpaceX is likely to test multiple approaches before settling on a final design that balances reliability, cost, and efficiency. To address these issues, SpaceX is expected to develop larger, more robust drone ships with advanced heat shielding and landing stabilization systems. These ships would be equipped with water deluge systems to help cool the surface during landing, preventing damage from the rocket's intense heat and exhaust. Additionally, a new version of the Octograbber robot, which secures Falcon 9 boosters after landing, would need to be developed for Starship to ensure it remains stable on the drone ship during transport. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching.